The year was 2157. Humanity had spread beyond Earth to 4 planets in nearby star systems. These colonies were small but growing stronger each day. The ships of the United Earth Space Force moved quietly through the stars. They did not want to draw attention from other beings who might be watching. Lieutenant Commander Susan Miller sat at her station on the scout vessel UES Pathfinder. Her eyes were fixed on the sensor display. The blue light from the screen lit up her face in the dim bridge. "Captain, I'm picking up unusual energy readings," Susan said. Her voice was calm, but her fingers moved quickly across the controls. Captain Diane Morgan walked over to Susan's station. She was a tall woman with short gray hair and eyes that missed nothing. "Show me," she said. Susan pointed to a cluster of strange patterns on her screen. "These energy signatures don't match anything in our database. They're coming from Sector 7 Delta, just beyond the edge of our patrol route." Paul Wright, the navigation officer, looked up from his station. "That's dangerously close to the dead zone, Captain. We're not supposed to go near there." Lisa Johnson, the science officer, joined them at the sensor station. She was younger than the others, with a curious mind that often led her to speak before thinking. "But this could be important," Lisa said. "These readings suggest a massive energy discharge, like the aftermath of a battle." Captain Morgan frowned. She had 2 choices: investigate the strange readings or report back to Earth Command and wait for orders. The second option was safer, but something told her they needed to see this now. "Set course for the source of those energy signatures, Mr. Wright," she ordered. "But keep us at a safe distance. We'll look, but we won't engage." "Yes, Captain," Paul said, entering the new coordinates. The Pathfinder changed direction, its engines humming as it moved toward the unknown signals. The bridge crew worked in silence. They all felt the weight of entering unexplored territory. 3 hours later, they arrived at the edge of what was clearly a debris field. Pieces of metal and unknown materials floated in the emptiness of space. Some fragments still glowed with heat. "My God," Lisa whispered as the main screen showed the scene. This was a massive battle. Susan's console beeped. "Captain, I'm detecting a faint energy signature unlike the others. It's moving." "On screen," Captain Morgan ordered. The main display shifted to show a distant area of space that looked empty at first glance. But as they watched, the stars seemed to bend slightly, as if something large was moving against the backdrop of space. "What is that?" Paul asked. Susan's hands flew over her controls, enhancing image and adjusting sensors. For a brief moment, a massive ship appeared on their screen. It was unlike any vessel they had ever seen. Its hull was dark and seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Strange markings covered its surface, but before they could get a clear look, the ship shimmered and vanished. "Where did it go?" Captain Morgan demanded. "Unknown, Captain," Susan replied, her voice tight with tension. "One second it was there, the next it was gone, like a ghost. Check for warp signatures, engine trails, anything," the captain ordered. Lisa shook her head after checking her readings. "Nothing, Captain. It's as if it never existed." Captain Morgan stared at the empty space on the screen. After 20 years in space, she had never seen anything like this. "Mr. Wright, take us closer to the debris field. We need samples. Lisa, prepare the collection drones. Susan, keep scanning for that vessel. If it shows up again, I want to know immediately." As the Pathfinder moved carefully into the debris field, Captain Morgan made her decision. "Whatever we just saw, Earth Command needs to know about it now. This wasn't just a battle. This was something else entirely." She turned to her communications officer. "Prepare a secure transmission to Admiral Harris. Priority 1. The crew worked quickly, collecting samples from the destroyed ships. No one spoke about the vanishing vessel, but it was on everyone's mind. Something new had entered their world, something that could appear and disappear at will. And they had no idea if it was friend or foe. As they finished their work, Captain Morgan gave the order to return to Earth. She had a feeling that the vanishing ship would change everything. Admiral Gregory Harris stood with his hands behind his back as he stared at the large screen in Earth Command Headquarters. The Geneva facility was buried deep underground, safe from any attack that might come from space. The room was cold and filled with the soft sounds of computers and quiet conversations. "Play that again," he said to the technician. The screen showed the brief moment when the Pathfinder sensors had captured the mysterious vessel before it vanished. Admiral Harris had watched it 17 times already. Each time, he felt the same chill run down his spine. Captain Diane Morgan stood nearby. She had just finished giving her report about what the Pathfinder had found. "We've analyzed the debris your team collected," said Kevin Phillips, the lead intelligence officer. He was a thin man with glasses who rarely showed emotion. Today, his face was tight with worry. "It's not good news, sir." Kevin touched his tablet, and new images appeared on the large screen. They showed pieces of metal and technology unlike anything humans had built. "The technology belongs to the Xaltian Empire," Kevin said. The room went quiet. Everyone knew about the Xaltians, though few had ever seen them. They were a powerful species that ruled hundreds of star systems with an iron grip. Humanity had been careful to avoid their notice. "Are you certain?" Admiral Harris asked. "Yes, sir. The metal alloys and power signatures match what our deep space probes have observed from Xaltian vessels. But there's something else." Kevin paused. "Some of the debris contains technology that might be human in origin." Captain Morgan stepped forward. "That's impossible. We don't have ships in that sector." "Not official ships," Kevin said. He touched his tablet again. "We found this message encoded in a damaged communication device." Words appeared on the screen. "Project Phantom successful. The veil between worlds holds. They cannot follow where we go." Admiral Harris read the message twice. His face gave away nothing, but his mind was racing. "Clear the room," he ordered. "Captain Morgan and Officer Phillips stay." When everyone else had left, Admiral Harris walked to a small panel on the wall. He placed his hand on it, then looked into a scanner. A hidden door opened, revealing a small, secure room. "In here," he said. Inside the room, Admiral Harris sat down heavily in one of 3 chairs around a small table. "What I'm about to tell you is classified at the highest level," he said. "For the past 15 years, we've been monitoring the Xaltian Empire without their knowledge. We've known they would be a threat to humanity if they discovered us." "Sir, are you saying the vanishing ship might be one of ours?" Captain Morgan asked. "I don't know," Admiral Harris admitted. "But this Project Phantom might explain a lot of strange budget items I've seen over the years. Resources disappearing, scientists going off-grid." Kevin looked troubled. "If humans have developed technology that can make a ship vanish completely from sensors, why hasn't it been shared with Earth Command?" "That's what we need to find out," Admiral Harris said. He stood up. "Captain Morgan, your crew performed well. They'll be debriefed and sworn to secrecy." He turned to Kevin. "I want everything you can find on any project with the word Phantom in it. Go back 20 years if you have to." Both nodded. "I'm authorizing a new mission," Admiral Harris continued. "Operation Shadow Watch. We need to make contact with this Phantom vessel while keeping humanity's presence hidden from the Xaltians." "Which ship will you send?" Captain Morgan asked. "The UES Horizon. It's our newest stealth reconnaissance vessel. Captain Frank Bennett commands it." Admiral Harris looked at them both seriously. "If there's a rogue human operation out there with technology advanced enough to take on Xaltian warships, we need to know about it before the Xaltians find us." What none of them knew was that it was already too late. In the debris field, a small device had activated when the Pathfinder left. It sent a signal into deep space, a signal that would soon reach the very empire they feared. Grand Marshal Kruvex stood on the command bridge of the Xaltian Imperial flagship Dominion. His scaled skin reflected the red lights of the control panels around him. His 4 eyes narrowed as he studied the report on the screen before him. 3 patrol vessels lost, he said, His voice was deep and seemed to vibrate the air. No distress signals, no survivors, just this energy signature before all contact was lost. The officer beside him shifted nervously. The signature does not match any known species in our database, Grand Marshal. Kravex turned his massive head toward the officer. In 1,000 years, the Xaltian Empire has conquered over 200 star systems. We have cataloged every species capable of space travel. And you tell me this is unknown? Yes, Grand Marshal. The energy pattern suggests highly advanced technology. But the strangest part is how it disappeared from our sensors. One moment it was there, the next it was gone. Kravex walked to the massive window that looked out into space. The Dominion was surrounded by hundreds of warships. The Xaltian Empire was not used to mysteries. They were used to conquering and ruling. Dispatch Battle Group 7 to the sector where our ships were lost, Kravex ordered. I want answers, not more questions. At once, Grand Marshal. In another part of the massive flagship, Imperial scientist Zotter bent over a workstation. Small pieces of debris recovered from the battle site were spread before him. His long fingers moved carefully over each piece. Fascinating, he whispered. He picked up a small device and placed it under a scanner. This technology, it suggests phase-shifting capabilities. Phase shifting was something the Empire had tried to develop for centuries. The ability to move matter partially out of normal space would make ships nearly impossible to detect or attack. But they had never succeeded. Zotter's assistant entered the laboratory. The Emperor requests your presence. Zotter felt his heart beat faster. The Emperor rarely spoke directly with scientists. This was either a great honor or a death sentence. In the Imperial chamber, Emperor Varizoth the Eternal sat on a throne made from the bones of conquered species. He was ancient, even by Xaltian standards. His scales had faded to a pale gray, but his 6 eyes were sharp and missed nothing. Tell me about this vanishing ship, the Emperor demanded when Zotter entered. Zotter bowed low. My Emperor, the evidence suggests a species with phase-shifting technology. They can move their ships partially out of our reality, making them appear to vanish. Impossible, the Emperor said. No species has mastered such technology. The evidence suggests otherwise, Emperor. And there is something else. We have found traces of elements that match a small, previously overlooked species from a nearby sector. The Emperor leaned forward. Which species? They call themselves humans. They have a home planet called Earth and a few small colonies. We discovered them 50 years ago, but deemed them too primitive to be a threat or worthy of conquest. The Emperor's eyes narrowed. Show me. Zotter activated a holographic display. Images of Earth and its people appeared in the air between them. Our intelligence indicates they have only recently developed space travel beyond their own solar system, Zotter explained. Their technology should be centuries behind ours. Yet the evidence suggests they may have made a breakthrough. The Emperor was silent for a long moment. Then he stood, towering over Zotter. I want reconnaissance ships sent to Earth immediately. If these humans have developed phase-shifting technology, I want to know how. And then I want to decide whether they should be conquered or studied. Yes, Emperor. As Zotter left the chamber, he wondered if the humans had any idea what was coming their way. Few species survived the attention of the Xaltian Empire. Meanwhile, far from both Earth and the Xaltian fleet, the UES horizon moved silently through space. Captain Frank Bennett peered out at the stars, unaware that he was on a collision course with the greatest threat humanity had ever faced. Captain Frank Bennett stood on the bridge of the UES horizon, watching the stars through the main viewport. The ship had been traveling for 6 days since leaving Earth. Their mission was clear but strange. Find a human ship that could vanish from sensors. Captain, I'm detecting something unusual at the edge of our scanning range, said the sensor officer. It's big, but it's not showing up clearly on our instruments. Frank walked over to look at the sensor display. Can you clean up the signal? I'm trying, sir. It's almost like it's partially there and partially not. Frank thought for a moment. Change course. Let's get a closer look. As the horizon moved toward the strange reading, the crew grew tense. They were in unexplored space, far from any help. "It's becoming clearer, sir," the sensor officer reported. "It appears to be a space station, but it's unlike any design I've ever seen." The main screen showed a massive structure floating in space. Parts of it seemed to fade in and out of view, as if it wasn't fully solid. "Open a communication channel," Frank ordered. Before they could, a message came through on their system. "UES Horizon. This is Vale Station. You are approaching a restricted area. Identify yourselves and your purpose." Frank was surprised. The voice was human, and they knew his ship's name. "This is Captain Frank Bennett of the United Earth Space Force vessel Horizon. We're on a mission from Admiral Harris to investigate unusual activity in this sector." There was a long pause. "Prepare to receive docking instructions, Captain Bennett. Welcome to Project Phantom." 2 hours later, Frank and his senior officers walked through the airlock onto Vale Station. They were met by a woman in a uniform Frank didn't recognize. It was similar to Earth Command's design, but with different insignia. Commander Olivia Martinez. She introduced herself. "I'm the officer in charge of Vale Station." Frank looked around at the station's interior. The technology was far more advanced than anything he had seen on Earth. "What is this place?" he asked. "And why doesn't Earth Command know about it?" Commander Martinez led them through corridors where parts of the walls seemed to shimmer and fade. "Project Phantom was established 50 years ago," she explained. "When we first discovered the Xaltian Empire, we realized humanity couldn't survive a direct conflict. We were too few, too weak." They entered a large room with a window looking out into space. Through it, Frank could see a sleek, dark ship that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. "So a secret project was formed," Martinez continued. "The best scientists, engineers, and soldiers were recruited. Our mission was simple but nearly impossible: develop technology that would give humanity a chance against the Empire." A tall man in a lab coat approached them. "I'm Alan Cooper, chief engineer," he said. "What Commander Martinez is trying to explain is that we've developed phase shift technology. It allows our ships to partially exit normal spacetime." Frank stared at the dark ship. "That's the vessel that destroyed the Xaltian patrol fleet." "Yes," said a new voice. A young woman in a pilot's uniform joined them. "I'm Lieutenant Samantha Lee. I piloted the UES Specter when we engaged the Xaltian ships that had discovered Earth's coordinates." Frank turned to Commander Martinez. "You've been operating without oversight, making decisions about humanity's survival on your own." "We had no choice," Martinez replied. "The normal chain of command would have moved too slowly. The Phantom Project operates under a simple directive: protect humanity by any means necessary." Frank looked out at the Specter again. "Admiral Harris sent me to find you because a Xaltian battle group is searching this sector. They know something attacked their ships." Martinez and Cooper exchanged worried looks. "Then we're running out of time," Martinez said. "Captain Bennett, you have a decision to make. Return to Earth and report what you've found, or join us, because the war we've been preparing for has finally begun." Frank looked at his officers, then back at the station personnel. Everything he knew about military protocol said he should return to Earth, but something told him humanity's best chance might be right here, with these people who had found a way to fight the Empire. Commander Drucker stood on the bridge of the Xaltian warship Conqueror. His battle group of 12 ships moved slowly through the sector, where 3 patrol vessels had disappeared. Every sensor was at maximum power, searching for any trace of the Phantom vessel. "Nothing yet, Commander," reported his second officer. "But we've modified our sensors based on Imperial scientist Zoder's specifications. If the target uses phase shift technology again, we should detect the energy signature." Drakor nodded. The Emperor himself had ordered this mission. Failure was not an option. "Continue the search pattern. Spread the ships wider. I want every corner of this sector examined. Back on Earth, Admiral Harris received troubling news. He stared at the young officer who had just delivered the report. "Say that again," Harris ordered, his voice tense. "Sir, we've lost contact with New Haven Colony. Before communications went down, they reported unusual sensor readings near their planet. The same thing happened at Freedom Point Colony 6 hours earlier." Harris felt a chill. New Haven and Freedom Point were Earth's furthest colonies. If both had gone silent, "Prepare the Pathfinder for immediate launch," he ordered. "I want Captain Morgan and her crew ready to depart in 3 hours." "Sir, we've installed some experimental countermeasures based on the technology recovered from the debris field. They haven't been fully tested yet." "They'll have to do," Harris said grimly. "If the Xultians have found our colonies, we need to know." On Vale Station, Captain Bennett had made his decision. He stood with Commander Martinez in the control room, watching as technicians prepared the UES Specter for another mission. "I can't just return to Earth and pretend I didn't see this," Bennett said. "But I need to send a message to Admiral Harris. He needs to know what's happening." Martinez nodded. "We can send a secure transmission, but it might be detected by Xultian sensors." "It's a risk we'll have to take," Bennett replied. "The Horizon will stay here. My crew and I will help any way we can." In the docking bay, Captain Ryan Clark supervised the final preparations for the Specter's mission. The ship was sleek and dark, with no visible windows or external lights. "The phase shift drive is at full power," reported Engineer Cooper. "But remember, each use puts tremendous strain on the system. We still haven't solved the power drain problem." Clark nodded. "Understood. But we need to know what the Xultians are planning." Lieutenant Lee climbed into the pilot's seat. "Mission parameters. Infiltrate the Xultian communication hub in Sector 9, Clark explained. "Access their battle plans and return without being detected. With the phase shift drive, we can pass through their outer hull without triggering alarms." "Like ghosts," Lee said with a small smile. 4 hours later, the Specter approached the massive Xultian communication station. The ship's phase shift drive activated, and the vessel seemed to fade partially from view. It moved silently toward the station's outer wall. "Phase density at 60%, Lee reported. "We're solid enough to control our movement, but insubstantial enough to pass through their hull." The Specter slipped through the solid metal of the station's exterior, like it was merely a hologram. Inside, the ship settled in a maintenance area where no Xultians were present. "Perfect insertion," Lee said. "Now we wait for the data team to work their magic." Clark and 2 specialists exited the ship, wearing suits that contained smaller versions of the phase shift technology. They moved through walls and doors, invisible to the Xultians working in the station. In the central computer core, they downloaded the Empire's battle plans. What they found was worse than they had feared. The Xultians had discovered Earth's location and were planning a massive attack. As they returned to the ship and prepared to leave, alarms suddenly blared throughout the station. "They've detected us somehow," Clark said. "Full power to the phase shift drive. We need to get out now." As the Specter tried to exit, the Xultians activated a new device. A strange field surrounded the ship, interfering with the phase shift technology. "Drive efficiency dropping," Lee called out. "We're becoming more solid. I can't maintain phase density." For a brief moment, the Specter fully materialized inside the station. Xultian sensors locked onto it before Lee managed to restore partial phase shift and escape through the hull. "They saw us," Clark said grimly. "We got the battle plans, but now they know for certain their phantom enemy is real." Emperor Varazov slammed his fist onto the arm of his throne. The entire chamber shook. The officers around him lowered their heads, afraid to meet his 6 angry eyes. "So it is true," the Emperor hissed. "A ship that can move through solid matter. A ship that can appear and disappear at will." Grand Marshal Kravex stepped forward. "The reports are confirmed, Emperor. Our communication hub recorded the vessel briefly appearing inside our station before it escaped. The energy signature matches what destroyed our patrol fleet. The Emperor stood, his massive form towering over everyone in the room. This technology threatens everything we have built over 1,000 years. With such power, even a small species could resist our might. We have traced the ship's path, Kravex reported. It appears the humans are responsible. They have hidden this technology from us. Then they have signed their own death warrant, the Emperor declared. Assemble the Imperial fleet. Every warship we have. We will crush these humans and take their technology for ourselves. Across the chamber, Imperial scientist Zotter spoke up. Emperor, perhaps a more measured approach. Silence. Varzoth roared. I will not risk allowing this technology to spread. The humans will be an example to all who would defy the Empire. On Vale Station, Engineer Cooper worked without rest. The data from the Specter's mission showed that the Xultians had developed a partial countermeasure to the phase shift technology. We need to improve the shift frequency, Cooper told Commander Martinez. They can detect our energy signature when we transition between phases. Martinez nodded. How long will the modifications take? 3 days for the Specter. Longer for the other ships we're converting. In another part of the station, Captain Bennett was sending a heavily encrypted message to Earth Command. The risk of detection was high, but Admiral Harris needed to know what they had discovered. The Xultian fleet is mobilizing, Bennett reported. Based on the intelligence we gathered, they're planning a direct assault on Earth and all human colonies. Estimated time before their main fleet arrives, 10 days. In Earth's solar system, Captain Morgan and the Pathfinder approached the New Haven colony. What they found made their blood run cold. The colony was intact, but every communication array had been precisely destroyed. On the planet's surface, they discovered the bodies of Xultian scout troops who had died in a firefight with colony defenders. They weren't trying to destroy the colony, Morgan realized. They were silencing it, keeping us from knowing they're coming. As the Pathfinder prepared to return to Earth with this grim news, their sensors detected 5 Xultian warships entering the system. Battle stations, Morgan ordered. Prepare to evade. The navigator looked at her in alarm. Captain, there's no way we can outrun 5 Xultian cruisers. We're not outrunning them, Morgan said. Activate the experimental countermeasures. Let's see if what we learned from the debris field works. The Pathfinder's new system came online. It couldn't make them fully phase shift like the Specter, but it created a similar energy field that confused Xultian sensors. The 5 enemy ships fired at where they thought the Pathfinder was, but their shots missed by a wide margin. The human vessel slipped between them and jumped to faster than light speed. Back on Earth, Admiral Harris received both Bennett's message and the Pathfinder's report within hours of each other. The situation was clear. Humanity was facing extinction. Harris called an emergency meeting with Earth's highest leaders. The Xultians are coming with everything they have, he told them. Our conventional forces cannot stop them. What options do we have? Asked the President of the United Earth Government. Harris took a deep breath. There's a secret project that might be our only hope. It's called Project Phantom. At that moment, 3 Xultian scout ships entered the outer edges of Earth's solar system. The timer was running down. Humanity had 8 days before the main Xultian armada would arrive. Hundreds of warships that would overwhelm even the phase-shifting vessels. On Vale Station, Lieutenant Lee looked at the massive station around her and had an idea. What if we don't just use ships? She asked Cooper. What if we use the station itself? Vale Station hummed with activity. Engineers and technicians worked around the clock to modify the massive station's systems. Lieutenant Lee's idea had sparked a desperate plan that might save humanity. It could work, Engineer Cooper said as he studied the blueprints. The phase shift drive on the Specter is too small to affect more than one ship. But if we scale it up and install it here in the station's core. Commander Martinez looked at the complex diagrams on the screen. How long will it take? 4 days if everyone works nonstop, Cooper replied. Maybe 5. The Xultian fleet will reach Earth in 6 days, Captain Bennett reminded them. It's going to be close. On Earth, Admiral Harris coordinated the planet's defenses. Every ship in the United Earth Space Force was called back to protect the homeworld. Colonies were evacuated, their people brought back to Earth. It was a massive operation, all done while trying to avoid detection by Xultian scout ships. We can't win a direct battle, Harris told his commanders. Our best hope is to hold them off until Vale Station is ready. In space near Saturn, the UES Pathfinder joined 2 other ships that had been quickly upgraded with the experimental countermeasures that had helped Captain Morgan escape the Xultian warships. We're not invisible like the Specter, Morgan explained to her crew, but we can confuse their targeting systems long enough to strike and move away. The 3 ships would serve as the first line of defense, harassing the incoming Xultian forces to slow their advance toward Earth. Meanwhile, Captain Clark prepared the Specter and 2 newly converted Phantom ships for a crucial mission. They gathered in Vale Station's main hangar bay. Once Vale Station is in position, Clark briefed his pilots. Our job is to create a diversion. We'll strike key targets in the Xultian fleet while they're focused on Earth. Lieutenant Lee checked her systems one last time. The Specter had been upgraded with Cooper's improvements. The new phase shift drive is more stable, she said, but we still can't stay shifted for more than 20 minutes at a time. It'll have to be enough, Clark replied. In the engineering section of Vale Station, Cooper and his team worked tirelessly on the massive phase shift drive. It was 100 times larger than the one on the Specter. Metal components and glowing power conduits filled a chamber the size of a small building. The theory is sound, Cooper explained to Commander Martinez. Instead of shifting the station itself, we'll create a phase bubble that expands outward. Anything caught inside will be partially shifted out of normal space, and the Xultian ships won't be able to escape. Martinez asked. Cooper's face was grim. They'll be trapped between dimensions, not fully in our universe, not fully out of it. 2 days before the Xultian fleet was expected to reach Earth, Vale Station fired its engines. The massive structure moved slowly toward a position between Earth and the approaching enemy armada. It was a dangerous gamble. The station had never been designed to move this far or this quickly. On the 5th day, Admiral Harris received a message from Vale Station. We're in position, Commander Martinez reported. Phase shift drive is installed and tests are positive. We're ready. Good, Harris replied. Our sensors show the Xultian fleet will arrive tomorrow. All Earth defenses are prepared, but we can't hold them off for long. In the void of space between Mars and Earth, hundreds of Xultian warships appeared. They dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. At their center was the massive Imperial flagship Dominion, carrying both Emperor Varazov and Grand Marshal Kravex. The human homeworld, Kravex said as Earth appeared on their view screen. Soon to be another conquered planet of the Empire. The Emperor nodded. Begin the attack. Show no mercy. What the Xultians didn't notice was a dark shape moving silently among their ships. The UES Specter, phase-shifted and invisible, ready to strike the first blow in humanity's desperate plan for survival. The Xultian fleet moved toward Earth in perfect formation. Their weapons were charged and ready to destroy humanity once and for all. On the bridge of the flagship Dominion, Grand Marshal Kravex watched with satisfaction as the first wave of attack ships launched. The humans have some primitive defenses, he reported to Emperor Varazov, but nothing that can stop us. Suddenly, alarms blared across the bridge. One of the Xultian cruisers at the edge of the fleet exploded without warning. What happened? The Emperor demanded. Before anyone could answer, 2 more ships erupted in flames. There was no sign of what had attacked them. The Phantom vessels, Kravex growled. They're here. The UEA Specter and 2 other phase-shifted ships moved through the Xultian fleet like ghosts. They appeared just long enough to fire their weapons, then vanished again. The Xultians fired blindly into space, hoping to hit the invisible attackers. On Earth, Admiral Harris watched the battle from command headquarters. The Xultian fleet had slowed its advance as it dealt with the Phantom ships, but it was still moving toward Earth. "Signal Captain Morgan," Harris ordered. "Begin Operation Shield Wall." The Pathfinder and 20 other ships with experimental countermeasures moved to intercept the first wave of Xultian attack ships. They couldn't become invisible like the Specter, but their systems confused Xultian targeting sensors. In the center of the approaching fleet, Captain Clark piloted the Specter directly toward the Imperial flagship. "Lieutenant Lee, prepare to take us into their command center," he ordered. Lee checked the phase shift drive. "Ready, Captain. But we'll only have 10 minutes before we need to shift back." "That should be enough time," Clark replied. The Specter phased completely out of normal space, passing through the Dominion's hull like it wasn't there. Inside the massive ship, they solidified just enough to plant explosive devices near the main shield generators. On Vale Station, Commander Martinez looked at Engineer Cooper. "It's time. Are we ready?" Cooper nodded grimly. "The phase shift drive is at full power, but we've never tested it at this scale. I don't know exactly what will happen." "We're out of options," Martinez said. "Captain Bennett, signal the Phantom ships to withdraw to safe distance." Bennett sent the coded message. The Specter and the other Phantom ships broke off their attack and moved away from the center of the Xultian fleet. "Activate the phase shift drive," Martinez ordered. Cooper pressed his hand against the scanner. The massive drive in the center of Vale Station hummed to life. The sound grew louder until the entire station shook with power. "Phase bubble forming," Cooper reported, "expanding at calculated rate." From the Pathfinder, Captain Morgan watched in awe as a strange distortion spread out from Vale Station. It wasn't quite visible, more like a ripple in the fabric of space itself. "All ships, clear the area between Vale Station and the Xultian fleet," she ordered. On the Dominion, Grand Marshal Kruvex noticed the strange effect too late. "What is that?" he demanded, pointing at the viewing screen. The ripple in space expanded rapidly, engulfing the center of the Xultian fleet. As it touched each ship, the vessel seemed to fade, becoming partially transparent. "Full reverse engines," Kruvex shouted, but it was too late. The Dominion and over 100 other ships at the center of the fleet were caught in the phase bubble. They didn't explode or break apart. Something much stranger happened. They became caught between dimensions, neither fully in normal space nor fully outside it. Emperor Varazoth watched in horror as his hands became transparent. He could see through the floor of his ship. His mighty fleet was turning into ghosts. The remaining Xultian ships, those that had been at the edges of the fleet, turned and fled. For the first time in 1,000 years, the Xultian Empire had been defeated. On Earth, people looked up at the night sky. Where the Xultian fleet had been, there was now a strange shimmer in space, like heat rising from a road on a hot day. The trapped ships were barely visible, frozen in time and space. Admiral Harris received the message from Vale Station. "It worked," Commander Martinez reported. "The phase bubble is stable. Half the Xultian fleet is trapped, and the rest are retreating." Harris looked at the President of the United Earth Government. "We did it," he said simply. "Humanity is safe." In the days that followed, the truth about Project Phantom was revealed to the people of Earth. The phase shift technology that had saved humanity became the foundation for a new era. No longer hiding in the shadows, humans took their place among the stars as a power that even the mighty Xultian Empire had learned to fear.